A vigil tonight to remember the life of a young girl who family says was bullied to the point of a tragic outcome.
I stand for Izzy. Let's hear it.
I stand for Izzy. Their hope for justice and for more help available to those who need it most.
Rain and snow here across Utah. Coming up, what you can expect for your Wednesday morning drive and the timing of our next storm.
A proposed exemption on vaccine mandates, how the bill was received by both committee members and the public, coming up.
I'm going to insult the president and beat the out of him.
He's charged with domestic assault and has been recorded disparaging the president of the United States.
Innocent until proven guilty, but we do very closely track those cases.
Now some wonder why he's still serving in the Utah National Guard.
I think he's incredibly dangerous.
Fox 13 News investigates extreme and enlisted.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Tonight, dozens gathered at a North Salt Lake park to support the family of a young girl who took her own life last weekend.
The family says 10-year-old Izzy Tishner was on the autism spectrum, and that made her an easy target for bullying.
A campaign with the hashtag I Stand for Izzy is taking off, demanding justice and conversations about mental health and bullying.
Fox 13's Emily Tenser is live at the vigil tonight. Emily.
Tonight's rain didn't stop the amazing turnout tonight here at Fox Hollow Park. As you can see behind me, people are still here. Dozens gathered to show the Tishner family that they stand for Izzy. Family, friends, and classmates of Izzy huddled together with candles and hot chocolate to show their support. Her family members spoke, as well as local leaders, a family therapist, and some of her school friends. The speakers pleaded with parents to talk to their kids about bullying, about racism, autism, and mental health. Izzy's grandmother, Paula Harris, says Izzy's death is earth-shattering, but says the love and support is what the family needs right now. She says together they can bring awareness to protect other kids.
My daughter was telling me that Izzy, for the last couple of weeks, have just been showing signs of sadness. If any change in your child's behavior, I just ask that you guys take the time, talk to them. They may not want to sit and talk to you, but it's important that we do get the word out and talk to them and let them know that if anything is bothering you, you can tell me. You're not going to get in trouble, but it's to save their life.
I was just never expecting her to do what she did. And nobody deserves to feel that way. Nobody deserves to feel worthless or like they don't belong.
The Davis School District sent Fox 13 News an updated statement saying the school provided significant resources of support for the family, saying, quote, "We take all reports of bullying and harassment seriously and will continue to investigate any reports we receive. Out of respect to the privacy of the family and obligations we have professionally to uphold that privacy, we cannot share further details." Governor Spencer Cox tweeted today that "My heart is broken for Izzy and her family. We must and will do more." Izzy's celebration of life is scheduled for this Saturday. Reporting live, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Emily, thanks so much. Child mental health experts with the Huntsman Mental Health Institute say suicides among the young continues to increase significantly each year.
Dr. Kristen Francis says the CDC lists suicide as the second cause of death for children ages 10 to 14 years old. She says children on the spectrum are more likely to have more mental health struggles than their peers. Dr. Francis advises parents to watch for changes in their child's behavior, such as not eating or sleeping, losing interest in activities, isolation, or expressing sadness or thoughts of suicide.
We used to think that talking about suicide could make suicide happen, and we know that that's not true. In fact, talking about suicide can reduce suicide. So for the most part, it's never too early to talk to your children about suicide if they ask. So if a child is asking, give them information. In general, if they're not asking, we recommend around age 8 and above that it's okay to start kind of bringing things up.
Dr. Francis there says once kids are around 10 to 13 years old, you can be more specific with discussions about suicide. For help, you can always call the Utah Crisis Line. Their number toll-free, 1-800-273-8255. Help is available on that line any day at any hour. Tonight, a state lawmaker's bill regarding vaccinations is under consideration on Utah's Capitol Hill.
It would expand exemptions and protections for employees who don't want the COVID-19 vaccine. Fox 13's Brian Schnee was at the Business and Labor Interim Committee hearing on this proposed bill today and shares how it was received.
It's in response to the federal employer COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Senator Kirk Cullimore introduced this bill, which aims to find some sort of balance between business rights and individuals' rights.
I might remind the members of the committee that we have a significant number of citizens who would like to speak to this issue.
More than 100 people came to speak on the proposed vaccine exemption bill being discussed by Utah Legislature's Business and Labor Interim Committee. The bill, introduced by Senator Kirk Cullimore, has been in the works for a few months. It allows employees who don't want the COVID-19 vaccine to claim medical, religious, and personal exemptions.
And then it further says that an employer shall not take adverse action against an employee who takes advantage of one of these exemptions. That means you cannot terminate them. You cannot refuse to hire somebody. You cannot demote them.
Some concerns were raised by fellow committee members over how this bill would impact the state's federal status with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
In our effort to push back against the federal government, we don't want to invite actually more federal intrusion in by losing our autonomy in regulating our businesses.
Members of the public, including both employees and employers, weighed in overwhelmingly in favor of this bill to permit exemptions.
What could possibly be more fundamental than preserving the right of anyone to decide what medical procedure and what medical actions are taken on their own body?
My family just recently made a job change just last week because of an employer threatening to implement a mandate if a mandate was imposed.
It's an egregious overstep. This is historical. This has never happened in this country where we are asked or forced to give up our rights to make a choice that affects our bodily autonomy. It's not fair, it's not right, and we need to stand up, which is what you're seeing here.
Just a handful of people wearing masks in the crowd, in a way symbolic of the small number of those speaking against the bill entirely.
The bill is disgusting. The bill is going against the president's vaccine mandate, which is completely lawful, and I expect to see the Fifth Circuit's ruling overturned.
Some groups and healthcare organizations opposed portions of the bill, and the sponsor is continuing to negotiate. The bill did make it to the Senate floor, where it was circled and remains in limbo. On the Hill, Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, most of us may be seeing rain outside our windows tonight, but up at Snowbird, this is what it looks like. Flurries have been accumulating. We show you this yardstick all the time. Usually it's a time lapse, but not tonight.
Just a live view.
This is a live look at the web camera there. And
snow has stopped. It looks like we're about 6 inches. Does that match up with your measurements tonight, Allison?
Yes, so just a few reports have come in so far. Alta, about 5 inches of snow, so certainly on par with what we're seeing on our different snow stakes here across the state. Park City Mountain, 2 inches of snow reported. This was just a few hours ago, but the information that just was released about 10 minutes ago shows those as the higher places right now for those snow totals. Here's what looks like at Deer Valley right now, though. So this is a 6 that you're seeing right here. So also quite a bit of snow has come down. Ski season is just, I think, a week and a half away for some locations. And we're not done with the rain and snow quite yet. We still have some strong areas of heavier rainfall developing on the west side of the Great Salt Lake right now. That's going to be our next round of rain, that showers that occur that are going to bring some heavier rainfall about midnight to much of the Wasatch Front. And then what we're seeing right now across the Salt Lake Valley is a little bit of drying, but we're still going to have some more additional rain overnight. Still a few flurries for the higher terrain for the Wasatch Mountains, but Utah County is seeing our heaviest rainfall from about Lehigh down through the Santaquin area. And then across the state, a few showers into southeastern Utah. Coming up, I'll let you know how much more rain and snow we can expect tonight and the timing of our next storm as it arrives here just in a few days.
Coming up on Fox 13 News at 9.
I seen the apartment just all in flames. They exploded.
Tenants at a Springville apartment complex forced from their homes after a jarring explosion. What investigators think caused the blast.
A Utah National Guard soldier is charged with domestic assault.
I think he's incredibly dangerous.
Yet he still wears the uniform. Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle goes looking for answers.
So it's really good to have everybody back home safe.
And after serving nearly a year in the Middle East, 24 Utah soldiers are now back home tonight with their families. We'll show you the Positively Utah homecoming still ahead.
The Jazz open up a 5-game homestand tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. Can they snap their 2-game losing streak? I'll have the highlights.
Tonight, cleanup continues in Springville after an explosion and fire at an apartment complex today. Several blocks of South Main Street in town were closed to fight the fire.
It's quite the scene. Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher spoke with a neighbor who had to evacuate after the blast.
On the busiest street in Springville, a commotion.
I just heard the big explosion, just boom, and then I seen all the fire trucks and everything, and then I just put 2 and 2 together.
Within moments, police rushed in to evacuate Sean Aguilar and his neighbors. He ran outside where kitty corner from his building.
I seen the apartment just all in flames. They exploded and it was just in flames. The whole thing was engulfed.
After an explosion in one apartment, Springville police say a second lit on fire. The entire building gone in an instant from a crew working on a gas line.
When they turned the gas line on and went to start lighting things, that's when the explosion occurred. I don't know where that line was being worked on and why that apartment was affected the most.
A man lives in the apartment that exploded, a mother and young daughter in the other. Thankfully,
no one was home when the explosion occurred on either one of the apartments.
Sean is grateful his neighbors are okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm glad.
Even if they lost everything.
Springville police say they are working to get resources for those who are displaced from this explosion. In Springville, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
On Utah's Capitol Hill tonight, the House of Representatives approved their version of the map for Congress. This is what it looks like tonight. Salt Lake County, Utah's most populous county, is split into 4 pieces, but it was not without more controversy. One Republican and some Democrats tried to change the maps right on the House floor.
If you make those small changes, we'll still have 3 largely Republican districts, but 1 district that still is a swing district.
We know in practice this disenfranchises every Salt Lake City voter, and it doesn't need to.
Some Republicans broke ranks and voted with the Democrats in opposing the map, but in the end, it passed 50-22. It now goes to the Senate.
The Utah legislature will tackle more maps tomorrow, but Fox 13 News is told opponents of those maps are now considering lawsuits, a citizen referendum, or a ballot initiative. Fox 13's Ben Winslow reports from Utah's Capitol Hill.
Important issues we're looking forward to debating and letting the members cast their vote on.
Lawmakers are still working on the latest maps whose boundaries could still change.
We have taken feedback from a lot of different folks. That was part of the dialogue that the committee worked on as they drafted these maps. There's a lot of considerations that were looked at, not just from the independent commission, but from other folks.
The legislature's redistricting committee rejected every single map put forward by the independent redistricting commission, which voters created when they passed Proposition 4. Public comment at the legislature's meeting was overwhelmingly in favor of the independent maps. But legislative leaders insist the power to ultimately decide boundaries rests with them.
The legislature will do what the Constitution's charged us to do, which is ultimately select the maps that these elected officials feel like best serve the needs of the state.
But there will certainly be impact.
I'm going to try my hardest to represent the people that put me here.
Judy Weeks-Roner was just sworn in to represent part of West Valley City in the House of Representatives. Under the latest proposed House map, her district goes away and moves to Eagle Mountain. But she says she's not thinking about it right now.
If anybody should be concerned about it, it should be me, and I'm not. Let's concentrate on this special session, on the next session, and then let's worry about those kind of things in March. Okay?
As lawmakers still deliberate boundaries behind closed doors, critics of the process have been discussing options, including lawsuits and a citizen referendum. Representative Weeks Roner is familiar with referendums. She was the sponsor of the one that forced the legislature to reverse course on its tax reform overhaul back in 2020.
I am so familiar with referendums, and I think that, the people, if that's what they choose to do, that's up to them.
Now, it should be pointed out a citizen referendum will only work if the legislature fails to get a 2/3 majority when it passes these maps. Meanwhile, Better Boundaries, which sponsored Proposition 4, says it's formed a political action committee aimed at some candidates and possibly a ballot initiative. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Governor Cox announced during a town hall meeting this evening on the internet that he does not plan to veto the redistricting committee's maps if they pass the Senate.
Well, also just coming out in the Cottonwood Canyons, we've got traction laws now in effect, so you have to have either four-wheel drive and those snow tires, so you have to make sure you are paying attention, abiding to those laws. Another weak storm on Thursday, so we do have some more potentials for rain and snow here across the state. And then we will have some more mild temperatures for this upcoming weekend, so I've got some homework for you. Homework is to enjoy it this weekend. We're going to have some really nice weather. Sun will rise tomorrow about 7:10 a.m. and here's what you can expect through the rest of the evening. The bulk of our heaviest precipitation has made it past Salt Lake County into Utah County. But I do want to point out we're going to have another wave of rain mostly after midnight tonight here along the Wasatch Front, especially up through Ogden. We saw some pretty impressive rain totals out of this system just this afternoon. Heaviest rainfall right now along I-15 from about the Lehigh area down through Payson, through the Santaquin area, and then up into the mountains. Right now we have areas of snowfall coming down. It looks like Provo Canyon, pretty decent conditions. Parley's Canyon had rain today, not turning over that snow, but it's enough to cause some hydroplaning concerns. So something to certainly keep in mind if you're going to be on the roads tonight or early tomorrow morning. But southern Utah, once you get south of Panguitch, that's where we're starting to see quite a bit of clearing, a few lingering showers possible, but the bulk of our precipitation is in Utah County right now. Temperatures 42 in Provo, 42 for Salt Lake City, 46 currently for Ogden. And then we look at the wind right now, and it's quite a bit calmer than it was earlier today. Our sustained wind right now, about 5 to 10 miles per hour here for Salt Lake, Ogden, and Provo. Salt Lake City tomorrow morning, it'll be about 40 degrees for the overnight low. So when you first wake up near 40, chance for a few showers overnight. And by tomorrow, highs will be close to 50, partly cloudy. Chance for a few isolated showers first thing tomorrow morning. Get to that in just a second. But those overnight temps, 7 a.m., majority of you are heading out the door tomorrow at about 40 degrees here along the Wasatch Front. So grab the warmer jacket. Some lingering showers will remain across the region through Thursday as another weak system moves through. So I would just go ahead and keep the umbrella in your car, make it easier. Now by tomorrow at 3 p.m., it'll be about 48 degrees for Provo, upper 40s for Salt Lake and Ogden, mid 40s for Logan, St. George close to 70. I'm totally jealous of your 7-day forecast. Through the rest of tonight, by about midnight, our line of thunderstorms and rain showers, I should say. Some rain showers with some embedded heavier rainfall will be into eastern Utah, about Vernal south down to Moab. And then after midnight, we also have the chance for a few more showers to develop here along the Wasatch Front. Additional clouds at times. Our next system arrives on Thursday. So our precipitation chances go down for this upcoming weekend, but we'll see widely scattered showers possible through Thursday and then again middle of next week. St. George close to 70 through Friday, low 70s this weekend with mostly sunny sky, but great weather on Veterans Day for any services outside. High of 70 in St. George. Salt Lake City close to 50 through Veterans Day. And then this upcoming weekend close to 60. We'll talk more about what you can expect here the next few days coming up later in the hour.
I think this is an example of how law enforcement and how the community should work.
Still ahead, law enforcement agencies are teaming up. What that has done for crime in Salt Lake City in just the past year, and what's next.
What we did is we focused. We brought the team together, we brought our agencies together, and we focused what we could leverage together as a team and what we could accomplish.
An initiative called Project Safe Neighborhoods has been bringing law enforcement agencies together in Salt Lake City over the past year to help reduce crime.
Fox 13's Spencer Joseph has an update on their progress and what still needs to be done.
This year, our city embarked on a partnership with our associates in state and federal law enforcement to make our capital city a more safe place.
Project Safe Neighborhoods over the last year has brought law enforcement organizations together to fight crime in Salt Lake City.
And I think this is an example of how law enforcement and how the community should work.
Tuesday, the organizations got together to announce some of the results. As a part of the partnership, 152 more people were arrested. Of those, 60 were repeat offenders, 29 had gang affiliations, and 37 were trafficking narcotics. But the biggest percentage was
Over half of the 152 defendants were charged with illegal firearm possession.
And it's an issue all those who spoke Tuesday took up.
There is no place for illegal firearms and violent crime in the state of Utah.
These are restricted people. They shouldn't have a gun.
This work has taken 124 guns off of our city streets.
But all of this work has made a difference.
Overall crime rate in Salt Lake City is down 1.7%.
Seeing a 1.7% drop in overall crime is a huge accomplishment.
For those in law enforcement, this fight to decrease crime is personal.
We live here. Our families live here. We all want to remain safe.
While there's good progress, the battle is not over.
There is really no finish line to our work.
And for Mayor Mendenhall and Chief Brown, they say to the community,
it is absolutely my driving directive as the mayor to make sure that our residents are getting the service that they need.
Your safety is paramount to this organization and is my number one priority.
The mayor also mentioning that there are some neighborhoods that do still need some work, mentioning Salt Lake City's west side and areas along North Temple, as well as the ballpark community. In Salt Lake City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Tomorrow night on Fox 13 News at 9, Spencer will have an inside look at how the Salt Lake Police Department's Special Investigations Unit conducts undercover drug operations. See how they're dealing with the worst of the worst criminals on the city's west side in restoring our streets. That's tomorrow night, only on Fox 13 News at 9.
He is charged with domestic assault. His name is on the rolls of a right-wing political organization, and he is heard on recordings saying he'd be willing to beat up the president.
I am going to insult the president and beat the out of him.
I'll tell you why he's still in the Utah National Guard.
Jazz battle the Hawks plus all 7 in-state Division I basketball teams in action. I'll have all the scores.
So nice to be home, but it's so nice to be able to see your family.
24 National Guard troops return home to Utah. Why one family says all that time away from home was worth the sacrifice.
I think he's incredibly dangerous.
I am going to insult the president and beat the out of him.
Depending on the outcome of the investigation is when we would proceed with any kind of military justice or adverse administrative action.
Tonight, Fox 13 News investigates how the case of a Utah National Guard soldier highlights the way the military addresses allegations of domestic violence and political extremism.
It is a situation that has many concerned. Here's Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle.
There were so many emotions that I had to deal with going through all of that and not knowing if I was going to wake up, the next day and see my family.
Erica Lukes married Chris Marks in January 2020. The pair had met only months earlier.
My name is Chris Marks.
When Lukes interviewed Marks for one of the more unusual podcasts you'll find.
I know that sounds a little bit more exciting to say that there's something paranormal going on.
Lukes is one of America's foremost UFO enthusiasts.
So what in the world is happening? Because if you guys buy this, you are all being played.
Marks is a 54-year-old former sheriff's deputy in New Mexico. Now he's a sergeant first class in the Utah Army National Guard. He also worked a private sector job as a caretaker on Skinwalker Ranch, the expanse in eastern Utah that has been the subject of investigations into the paranormal.
We were researching and at the same time keeping the place off or keeping it secure.
It was a very fast courtship, but it just seemed like there were so many similarities. The problems emerged fairly quickly.
In February of this year, 13 months into the marriage, Luke says Marks threw her cell phone across the couple's apartment in Salt Lake City. Then, she says, he came up behind her, pulled her by the hair, tore out this chunk, and hit her in the head. Marks is charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of domestic violence assault and a count of violating a protective order. He's pleaded not guilty. Marks did not return messages for comment sent through his attorneys. Here's another reason why Luke's reported her husband to the Utah National Guard and to law enforcement.
That f***ing Sudanese and his f***ing white f***ing waiter tied our hands behind our backs.
Marks is talking about Presidents Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
You need to get some. That f***ing needs to f***ing get f***ing executed. In this f***ing Biden f***ing body. F***ing both of them f***ing Biden. I f***ing hate his guts. I wanna, if I ever see him, if I ever meet him in person, God forbid, I'm going to insult the president and beat the f*** out of him.
Luke's recorded that conversation the same day the Associated Press called the presidential race in favor of Joe Biden.
I have no issues taking a gun and starting shooting left-wing at their rallies. No problem at all.
Luke says she has given the recordings to the National Guard, the FBI, and the Secret Service. To date, federal prosecutors have not charged Marks with any crimes. Marks has also appeared on the membership roll of the Oath Keepers, which was recently leaked online and obtained by our content-sharing partners at the Salt Lake Tribune. The Southern Poverty Law Center describes the Oath Keepers as a far-right anti-government group.
I think he's incredibly dangerous.
Despite all this, the Utah National Guard confirms Marks is still a soldier here, 9 months after Luke's began telling them what was going on. He cannot receive promotion or commendation while his legal troubles are pending. We took all this to the Utah National Guard. Lieutenant Colonel Byron Harvison is a military lawyer for the Guard. He wouldn't talk about the Marks case specifically, but discuss the regulations at play, starting with domestic violence charges.
Innocent until proven guilty. But we do very closely track those cases. Regulations provide that the civilian court has priority in the prosecution of those crimes, and then we handle things on the adverse administrative side of things.
The protective order issued to Marks bars him from possessing firearms. Harvison said in such cases, a soldier would not be allowed to handle guns and would be removed from jobs requiring a security clearance, but could otherwise continue with duties until the civilian and military proceedings are concluded. As for threats against former and future presidents, is that necessarily something the Guard would take action on?
So it most certainly is. We would refer the individual to the Federal Bureau of Investigation to be investigated. Depending on the outcome of the investigation is when we would proceed with any kind of military justice or adverse administrative action.
And then he absolutely needs to be investigated properly by DOD, and she needs to be provided special victims counsel.
Leah Olszewski is a former officer in the Alabama National Guard who has testified before Congress about domestic violence in the military. She was not familiar with the Marks case, but spoke to us about how the Department of Defense, or DOD, addresses these issues.
You do not speak ill or criticize the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. So that's not our job as service members to be political and engage in that.
I'm sure a lot of people hear the allegations against a particular soldier and immediately think, basically, throw the bomb out right now. But it sounds like you're saying it's not that simple. There's a due process to follow.
Certainly, there sure is.
Luke's and Marks are in the midst of a divorce. Luke says the split has cost her thousands, and the Utah National Guard has thus far declined to order Marks to pay all those bills.
There's a problem here, and nobody seems to be asking that. I guess it's okay.
For now, Luke's is living in her fitness studio, Total Body Pilates, where she also produces her UFO podcast. She still fears her husband.
For me, I was so traumatized and in shock. This is a serious issue, and I'm not the only wife of somebody who works in the military who has taken risk to come forward to talk about this.
In Salt Lake City, Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The phone numbers and web addresses on your screen right now are for people experiencing domestic violence. The Utah National Guard has domestic violence advocates for service members and their families. And any Utahn experiencing abuse can find help at the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition. To see this information again, go to fox13now.com.
If you have a story you'd like the Fox 13 News investigative team to look into, you can email iteam@fox13now.com. You can also call the tip line. The number is 801-536-1314.
Coming up on Fox 13 News at 9, the latest on the investigation into the deadly crush at the Astro World Festival, and a look back at a similar tragedy that happened in Utah in the 1990s. More lawsuits have been filed in the wake of the deadly Astro World Festival in Houston, Texas over the weekend. Today, attorneys announced lawsuits from the families of 5 teenagers who witnessed the chaos unfold during rapper Travis Scott's performance. 8 people ranging in age from 14 to 27 were killed at this event. Dozens more were injured in the chaos. Death by crowd surge isn't something new to Utah.
Unfortunately not. What happened at the deadly Astro World concert Saturday in Houston that left the 8 people dead is something Utah experienced 30 years ago. 3 young people died at an AC/DC concert in 1991 at the old Salt Palace. Paul Murphy was a music lover. He was also a reporter at the time of that concert tragedy. He says it's an example of history repeating itself.
We learn our lessons, we kind of ease up, and then things get dangerous again and people get killed. 50,000 people without a seat and squishing towards the stage. There's really no way to stop that type of a crowd.
Paul believes it is up to the artist, the security, and the concert promoter to ensure safety. He also says people need to be aware of their surroundings to make sure they're safe, because the people in charge may not be doing enough.
Let the students speak! Let the students speak!
The intense debate over changing the name of Dixie State University continued on Utah's Capitol Hill today. Those for and against the name change testified before the Higher Education Interim Committee. The measure being considered would change the name to Utah Technical University. For those against the measure insist Dixie harkens back to Mormon pioneers who settled in St. George to grow cotton. Those wanting the name change believe it would distance the university from perceived ties to the Confederacy and make it easier to recruit and retain students.
We found that there was a problem. And so once you see that there's a problem, you need to act on it.
You're going to create a problem that does not exist right now.
Changing the name would cost a projected $2.7 million. A vote is expected during this week's special session. The bill's sponsor believes he has enough votes to make it pass. Governor Spencer Cox says he will sign the bill if it is passed by the legislature.
Another big bill has taken months of negotiation between prosecutors, defense attorneys, police, and lawmakers. It's the tricky issue of bail reform. Utah did away with some of its bail requirements 2 years ago, then undid that earlier this year after pushback from the bail bond industry along with police. The bill is now back, and its sponsor believes they've reached a good compromise, directing judges to consider other conditions of release.
Still ahead, it's been a homecoming nearly a year in the making. We'll show you the reunion of one Utah couple after a deployment to the Middle East when we return.
College basketball season tipped off tonight with all 7 Division I teams from Utah in action. And the Jazz are back at home for a good stretch starting tonight against the Hawks. The highlights are on the way.
Great to get them home finally. They're a huge asset to our team.
24 soldiers with the Utah National Guard are back home tonight after serving nearly a full year in the Middle East.
What a homecoming. Fox 13's John Franke joined families at the Salt Lake International Airport today for the reunion that is positively Utah.
These men and women work in intelligence and provided early detection to U.S. and coalition forces in the Middle East. This was an 11-month-long deployment, but one family tells me it was worth the sacrifice knowing they were protecting the United States.
And he is
So I'm like shaking. I'm like super excited to see her.
The final moments.
I'm just nervous to see her again.
Of a nearly year-long wait.
I'm sure she'll cry.
Are the most agonizing.
I am nervous. I'm excited. I'm a little shaky and I just want to hug her.
Jareth Aranda arrived at the Salt Lake airport plenty early with a sign and 70 roses in hand.
I made it myself.
Ready to see his wife for the first time in 11 months.
I'm not really the crying type, but I am nervous.
As this sea of travelers goes their separate ways, an embrace comes into focus.
It's wonderful seeing her again, and I forgot how stunning she was.
Oh my gosh, yes. I've been so nervous. I couldn't sleep last night.
Sergeant Selina Rodriguez, Jareth's wife, is home.
We've been away for approximately 11 months, and it's just so nice to be home. It's so nice to be able to see your family.
The time away from Jareth and their 2 children.
The hardest part is not being able to help, and when you have little kids, not being there for them.
Wasn't easy.
I don't think I can remember being away like a few more than a couple days, and so this was a tough year.
But this sacrifice.
It's nice to have the support that we've been having. You have this sense of peaceful relief.
Is one that had the most noble purpose.
I'm a big fan of the U.S. I believe I'm a big patriot, and I'm proud of what she's doing. I don't know exactly what she's doing, but I'm super proud of everything that she does for the country.
Sergeant Rodriguez tells me this was her first long deployment, and while she's happy to be back, she will be ready if called again. At Salt Lake City International Airport, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Just love seeing those. Welcome home to all our soldiers tonight.
What a wonderful story.
Yeah. A road weather alert for you. The traction law is in effect for both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons right now. That means four-wheel drive with chains or tires are required to drive in these canyons.
Snow-rated tires.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right. Those would come in handy tonight. This is a live look at Big Cottonwood near Donut Falls. As you can see, the snow is still coming down in this area.
I would venture to say, regardless of where you're driving tonight, tires are going to be a must here across the valley.
Yeah, better to use tires than to not.
Yeah. Did I say that? There was a typo in the prompter. I think I overlooked it. It said no tires. We don't want that.
No tires.
Yes, no tires. So you'll want to make sure that you're paying attention to those traction laws, because there is a fine if you're trying to get up there, and it's also very dangerous. We're going to go ahead and get to your super 7-day forecast here across the Wasatch Front. What we're expecting for tonight, we do still have some heavier rainfall moving through the Great Salt Lake right now that is moving towards the east, and we are going to see this approaching the Wasatch Front in just a few hours. In about 2 hours, we're going to see some heavier rainfall possible. So we still have some areas of rain and snow near Highway 6 right now, mostly north up towards the Strawberry area, but Salt Lake right now 45 degrees, 46 for Ogden, and 44 degrees currently in Provo. Let me show you what you can expect first thing tomorrow morning when you wake up. Temperatures at 8 o'clock in the morning will be about 40 degrees for Provo, Salt Lake, and Ogden, mid-30s for Logan. Then by tomorrow at 3 p.m., it'll be about 45 to 50 for Salt Lake, Ogden, and Provo. St. George close to 70. We're going to continue with a chance for a few isolated showers tomorrow for parts of the state. St. George, you've got some really nice weather though. 71 tomorrow, 70 on Veterans Day. Nice weather for services. And then for this upcoming weekend, low 70s for Saturday and Sunday in St. George. Here in Salt Lake City, on your super 7-day forecast, partly cloudy sky tomorrow here in Salt Lake. When you first wake up, close to 40, and then about 50 for a high tomorrow. Chance for a few lingering showers tomorrow morning. Same thing on Thursday, cloudy sky. Could see a few isolated showers, but let's go ahead and just call it cloudy for Veterans Day. 41 degrees at 8 a.m., 44 degrees at 10 a.m. By noon, 47, and at 2 p.m., 49. If you are going to be at any outdoor services, I would recommend going ahead and just bringing that umbrella just in case. By Friday, 58 for a high here in Salt Lake City. Your top headlines were drying out by the weekend. We'll have mild temperatures with some very nice weather this upcoming weekend, and some building inversions will be a possibility as we head into this upcoming weekend. Then we head into Saturday. Here in Salt Lake, partly cloudy, 60 degrees, a nice day. This is actually going to be above average by about 5 to 10 degrees, depending on where you are. So I want you guys to enjoy it, is what I'm saying. We're going to have those mild temperatures hanging around through Sunday. Sunday, partly cloudy, 61 degrees. And as I show you this future cast, as we wrap up the weekend, you'll see that we're going to be much drier as we head into Sunday evening. So getting the week going. By Monday, we're going to have temperatures in the mid 60s. And by Tuesday, partly cloudy sky and 60 degrees for a high. So by next Tuesday, as we look at our rain outlook for days 8 to 14, we're actually going to start trending drier during week 2 here across the state.
Well, BYU and Utah both in this week's college football playoff rankings. The Cougars moved up a spot to 14th, and the Utes moved into the rankings for the first time at number 24. Utah Jazz started a 5-game homestand tonight with the Atlanta Hawks. Jazz beat the Hawks last week without Donovan Mitchell. Of course, they like him on the court. Nice drive off the glass and in. The Hawks lost to the Warriors last night. Trae Young had a good night. Knocks down the three. He had 27 points. Royce O'Neal played well for the Jazz. 3 up and good. He had 11 points. Jordan Clarkson torched the Hawks in Atlanta. How about the handles on this drive? He had 16 points off the bench for the Jazz. Hassan Whiteside played a lot of minutes with Rudy Gobert in foul trouble. Throws it down. He had 10 points. Jazz up 12 at the half. Third quarter, Mitchell again finds some room, puts up the 3, it hits. He led the Jazz with 27 points. And how about this no-look pass to Rudy Gobert? He had 9 points, 14 rebounds. The Jazz won it 110-98, ending a 2-game losing streak to improve to 8-3. Opening night of college basketball, the Craig Smith era is underway at Utah as the Utes took on Abilene Christian. Utes have a lot of new faces. UNLV transfer David Jenkins Jr., 3 of his team-high 15 points. Utah dominated the boards 55-29. Brandon Carlson with the offensive rebound and the putback. He had 14 points. A couple of Utah State transfers. Marco Anthony steps into his shot. He had 10 points. Then Raleigh Wooster, 3 of his 12. The Utes won it 70-56. Also started the Ryan Odom era at Utah State as the Aggies opened up against UC Davis. Justin Bean got it started for the Aggies. He had 16 points. Brock Miller can also light it up from long range, knocks down the 3. Brandon Horvath led the Aggies with 18 points, but UC Davis won the game 72-69. BYU is at home against Cleveland State. First half, it's Caleb Lohner. Lays it in for 2. Hope for a big season from him. Then down the outside, it's Trevin Neal. The first of back-to-back 3s from him in the first half. Then after the break, a little cherry picking. Throw the other way to Baxter for the throwdown. BYU in a tight one, up 4 late in the second half. In other scores from around the state, Weber State beat Western Colorado big 160. Utah Valley lost their opener by 20 at Boise State. Southern Utah put up 116 in their blowout win against Bethesda, and Dixie State had the toughest challenge of them all. The top-ranked Gonzaga, the Bulldogs won it 97-63, but a pretty good showing.
Yeah, good showing.
I would say.
Sure. My goodness.
That's a tough one.
Basketball.
Gonzaga's what, number 1 right
one
now?
in the country, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Best team out there.
What a home opener.
Way to stick with it, Dixie State. Way to go.
Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back.
Okay, a new study by Wallet Hub ranked Utah as the #1 most charitable state. Way to go.
Yes.
That's great. We came first in the categories of percent of donated income, percent of population who donated time, also volunteer rate and volunteer hours per capita. This is the second year in a row Utah got the top spot.
Yeah, way to go. Quick Cast up next.